Do we have everybody in? I think, oh, there's Yolanda. Oh, fantastic. Hello, hello,
Yeah.
Hi. Great. So I think we will start as it's 2 minutes past the start of the session, and we do have a bit of a packed one. So my name is Dimitris Saidous, and I'm a research fellow in Trinity College Dublin. And today we're going to kind of share with you some work that we've been doing on a new co-creation process called the Sarajevo Process that uses art as a way of engaging, building empathy and connection. With us today on the panel, we have colleagues from the Connecting Nature project, and I'm going to introduce them right now. We have Dr. Paulina Georgiou, who's a research fellow in UEL at the University of East London. Then we also have colleagues from two of our fast follower cities. From Nicosia, we have Eleni Malekidou, who's a project manager with the Nicosia Development Agency. And from A Coruña, we have Antonio Prieto Gonzalez, who's an architect, and Maria Mercedes Gonzalez Vasquez, who's a lawyer, and they both work on the Connecting Nature project in A Coruña. As well as our colleagues in Connecting Nature, we're really, really happy today to have two artists with us who worked with A Coruña on their Sarajevo process. And we have Iria Fafian, who's an illustrator, and Yolana Castano, who's a poet. I would also just like to mention that we had an illustrator join us in Nicosia as well, Eliana Chrysanthou, but unfortunately she couldn't join us today. So I'm going to rely on the tech gods. We've recorded a session with her, and hopefully that will just be a nice seamless transition after we start the session today. So thank you all for joining us. And now I'm going to pass it over to Paulina, who's going to speak with us a little bit about the Sarajevo process and the work that we've been doing with the cities.
Mitra, I'm just going to share my screen quickly. Let's see. Okay. Can you all see this? It's okay? Okay, thank you. So this is a very short overview of the Sarajevo process and what became the beginning of an enterprise that you'll be hearing about from the rest of the panel soon. It is an innovative engagement process that utilizes the power of the arts to achieve transformative experiences. Coming out of Connecting Nature, the Sarajevo process is it was named after the city where it was piloted and is innately interested in the relationship between humans and nature, particularly in urban environments. So working with practitioners and professionals across Europe, we wanted to create a process where the importance of nature and the importance of the nature-based solution exemplars would become central. And we wanted to find a way to reestablish connections with nature for all stakeholders. And this was, we decided to do this through art. Before I explain why, let me tell you just a little bit about the process for context. It is a co-creative arts-based engagement process. It uses a number of creative methods to establish and reestablish connections with nature. It invites creative encounters with the past, present, and future, and it inspires imaginative and innovative storytelling. And the methodology that we based the process on includes memory work, immersion in nature, ecotherapy, body mapping, and embodied reflection throughout. So the process of making art and being creative has many benefits, including that of being mindful of one's body in space and time. We encourage reflection on the embodied experience of the process and a translation of that into a variety of art forms. We've collaborated with local artists to record the process, allowing space for them to contribute when inspired to do so. Some of these artists are here today to tell you about how they took initiative to facilitate the sessions, but also how they recorded them through their skills and talents. Most of the participants of the Sarajevo process, we should say, haven't identified as artists so far, but during the process, they have produced artwork and expressed themselves in new creative ways. And you'll see some of this work in a little bit. We're now considering the curation of the artwork into an interactive exhibition that will showcase the incredible work coming out of the Sarajevo process. I think it will become clear when both of the cities and the artists have had an opportunity to present why we see the Sarajevo process as a transformative experience. It's an innovation in response to the disconnect with nature identified in cities during the Connecting Nature project. And you'll see later how this has become part of something bigger. So that's it from me as far as the overview goes. Thank you for listening, and let me stop sharing. Thanks.
Perfect. Thanks, Paulina. That was a very short and snappy kind of overview of the Sarajevo process. But I think now is where we get to the really enjoyable part of the panel, which is to hear from the cities themselves in their experience and the work that they've done through the process and also working with artists. So I'm going to now move over and have Eleni kind of share with us her experience from the city perspective on the Sarajevo process.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Dimitri. Let me share my screen. Just a minute. Sorry. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, everybody can see. Perfect.
Okay, let's start. So, hi, everyone. Just a minute because something's wrong with my... Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so hi everyone. Today I'll be presenting the experience of Sarajevo process in Nicosia, Cyprus. The workshop took place in September 2020 and lasted for 3 days. The participants were the close group of 6 colleagues that form our team, an L team, 4 women, including myself, 2 men, Paulina as the facilitator, Eleana, an illustrator, and Dimitris, a filmmaker who recorded the process. Regarding the language, we discussed this issue with Paulina during the pre-production process. And we thought it would be quite awkward to speak in English while everyone, participants and facilitator, were Greek native speakers. We also wanted to ensure that the issue of different comfort levels with the English language wouldn't act as an obstacle in expression. As expected, the process switched automatically to Greek from the very first moment, with some English terminologies coming in when necessary. The first day of the process took place at the office. Everyone was asked to bring along pictures of themselves in nature from the past. The participants did not know what to expect because I have decided to bring the element of surprise in the process in order to capture the real feelings, genuine feelings and reactions. I didn't want my colleagues to prepare themselves from home what to say and what to share that day. The session started with a short presentation on my side of the exemplar and our vision, which is to create on a district level an urban network of linked, open and green spaces, connecting them with an integrated bicycle and pedestrian network using as a core the National Forest Park of Athalassa. Following my presentation, Paulina provided a brief introduction of what is expected, the methodology of each exercise, and also we had a small discussion on the aim of this process, which was to address the connection and the relationship between humans and nature. After this small introduction, everyone was invited to place their picture on the small tripod in front of them and use it as a prompt to write about a memory in nature. The first challenge we had is to get everyone writing. A few people, including myself, went straight for it, focused on their goal. A few others weren't really comfortable with the writing and with the process, so they started discussing with each other, and they were discussing about common memories they had in nature with their families and so on. One participant, Armani guy, as we call him, Panayotis, was more resistant to writing. And in general, he was resistant, arguing that it was everything in his head already. So once the room was silent, let's say, because everyone was writing, he started writing as well himself. When the 20 minutes time ended, everyone had written something. Some preferred to write in notes, some others small paragraph. Myself and Paulina, when first started sharing what we have written down in order to break the ice and possibly the level of comfortness in sharing personal memories, I was really happy to notice that all my colleagues were comfortable to present their pictures and to talk about them. Even though some keep their presentation quite short, most ended up talking around expressing more things than they already written down. And however, I think that this process of writing was really important moment of reflection and an artistic output, because it gave us the opportunity to travel back in time and remember things that we might have hidden and the relationship we had with nature that we forgot. I must highlight here that the choice of communicating in Greek was wise, in my opinion, because the most important element in this process is the participants to feel comfortable to speak, to write, and to interact with each other. And doing so in their first language was a boost in producing good outputs. The second day started with a city walk. We were all prepared that it would be a long day, and it was a very hot day, as it is today. But we were still very excited. We were all dressed casually and started our city tour. We have chosen to visit 3 out of 8 parks of our proposed network: Nakaristra, Gorge, Lurka Forest, and the Thalassa Forest Park. The discussions while driving to the sites were very informative and reflexive, and revolved mainly around Cypriot culture, how we use the nature, and the relationship between Cypriots and nature that depends mainly where we live, if we live in the coast or the mainland. So the first stop was Nakaristra Gorge, a geologically important site that features a prehistoric monument. It's part of our exemplar. When we arrived, some of my colleagues preferred to stay at the top of the gorge, as the trek and the dust was not a very welcome addition to the heat of the day. The rest of us, we walked in the gorge and enjoyed the art of the nature. We had various emotions. Some of us were really excited to take pictures, to touch the shells. Others looked down from the top and they were trying to share this enthusiasm. The next stop was Lurka Forest in Yeri, which is another site that we have included in our exemplar in Connecting Nature. It is an elevated park sitting on the hill facing the Green Line, the area of the Green Line. It's very close to Thalassa Forest Park, which is the core of the proposed green network, but it is not really well known in the area of Nicosia. And it's something that we want to change. We want people to connect with this site as well. Then the last stop was at Thalassa Forest Park, where many of the process activities took place for the second day. We had a short coffee break to cool off in the shade of the trees, and then when everyone felt ready to proceed, we had a short discussion with Paulina about the process of the day, and then it was a time to start the meditation and ecotherapy practice. Everyone stood up still, as you can see from the photos, forming a large circle, and took deep breaths under Paulina's instructions to think of our surroundings and use our senses to absorb every feeling and clean our heads from all the thoughts we have and from our routine. Following the meditation, we all went ahead and walked around in silence, used our bodies to interact with nature more consciously, and collect material for our artwork. the men of our group were silent for the first part, for the meditation, but they did not get this to the next part. They immediately became distracted by each other and went off talking about work and answering calls. But the women were much more comfortable and concentrated on the task. And one of the two men was also saying that he was really resistant, as I said, to unlock himself. But as you will see later on, he actually followed the group throughout, and he managed to cope with the strangeness he felt by teasing each other, by teasing the rest. But at the end, he managed to cope with us and had a really good result. After the lunch break, we all sat on the picnic tables and started to play around with the art supplies we had and the natural materials we collected. The body maps were laid out for us to choose which from the pile of male, female, and gender-neutral bodies. At the beginning, there was some joking, teasing between the team, but as time passed, everyone became more and more concentrated on their artwork. It was a moment of creativity and bonding. We all truly enjoyed the process, and we were surprised of how well we did. Most of us felt really proud of our artwork. When we all finished, we hung the string across the trees where everyone put the artwork in line. And it was really nice to see our art pieces being displayed in the space where they were inspired and created. Then everyone was asked to say a few words about their artwork and any symbolism behind what they have drawn. The last day of the workshop held back at the office, we started with a discussion of the previous day's experiences. We all had the chance to digest the different stages of the process, the journey from the past to present, and felt more ready to share our views and express our feelings. So we had one last task before closing these 3-day sessions. We had to bring everything from the past 2 days and applying onto one single piece of collective art about the future. So we had to think the past, present, and put everything on the canvas for the future. So our canvas was an A1 size land use map of the area of intervention. And at that stage, Eleana, our illustrator, felt that there was much more to be said about using art as a tool to unlock feelings and emotions. She took a leading role without saying it from the beginning. It was something that happened spontaneously, and started talking about the concept of art as more than simply an aesthetic creation. She explained that art was also a record of everyone's experience and how this map would be transformed in a common piece of art, inspired by our team and the experience we had as individuals and as a team the past 2 days. She helped everyone to unlock their artistic dimension, creativity, without guiding us to something specific. It was felt more like challenging us, encouraging us, and boosting us to give our best for this final task we had and to contribute the maximum we could. For an hour, everyone worked on the collective piece of art. So each one of us focused on our own contribution, worked on one corner or idea, moving on another, discussed in small groups our thoughts behind what we were drawing, sharing thoughts, and so on. The time passed really quickly, and we all really enjoyed the process, and Eleana's encouragement when necessary to keep going was really helpful. At the end of the day, everyone was invited to take a step back from the map and look at what has been co-created, and started discussing on a different part of the artwork and how each one of us reflected on this experience. Concluding, Sarajevo Process was a really inspiring and helpful process for Nicosia, even though at the beginning, as I always say, my team did not understand fully the reason and the scope behind this workshop and session. During the process development, everyone started realizing the benefits to gain. First is related to the implementation of the exemplar, as we had the chance to spend quality time in the nature, and more specifically the sites we have included in our exemplar, the places we have chosen to invest in through this project. And second, on how our team can work together in a very different manner, how art and nature can really help everyone, even the toughest ones, to unlock and finding new perspective and utilize our personal experiences and memories to approach and express in a fruitful way and to contribute in the overall team's task. We have decided to repeat the process in autumn with a different group of people, probably with municipal and governmental officers and experts such as architects who are involved in our exemplar in order to see what extra value can be added to our project and to their view for our project. If they will manage to see the exemplar with different eyes, as it happened in our case with an L group, most of these professionals like ourselves are often lost in paperwork, screens, meetings. They spend most of their time in the offices, and they almost never take the time to actually connect with nature and truly understand the importance of these kind of projects we work on. So hopefully by the end of the year, we will see how this process reacted on them and have some really interesting outcomes, hopefully to share in the future with you. Thank you very much.
Eleni, that's always very inspiring. I know it's been over a year since, or almost a year since we did the first round with you, but it's just really lovely to hear the story again, and it's very inspiring and really moving. I think now, if it's possible to have the tech person come in and start Eliana's presentation, you can hear her perspective as well.
Hello, everyone. I'm Eliana. I'm sorry that I couldn't attend today. I hope that you all have an enjoyable session. I will share with you my experience of Sarajevo Process in Nicosia. When I was asked by Anel to illustrate the Sarajevo Process, I didn't really know what to expect. The first day was at the office, where I found the participants in their formal office clothes, gathered at the conference room. Initially, my role was to document what I was seeing, so I only had with me my A5 sketchbook and some pens. During the memory work process, I was able to observe each participant as an individual and draw some quick sketches of the portraits. At the same time, I was taking notes of what they were saying, so I could create a profile for each one of them, as they were all sharing memories in nature with nostalgia. I realized that I couldn't paint detailed illustrations on the spot, so I decided to take photos and complete the final illustrations later. The second day started with a quick meeting at the office, where we all arrived in our casual outfit and a lighter mood. We visited two beautiful natural pathways in Nicosia and ended up at our third location at the Thalassa Park, where we were supposed to have our workshop. Although it was a very warm day with more than 42 degrees, we found shade under the trees. The first task was to collect materials found at the park and then use them to create a body map. I had an idea to write some words on leaves that I also collected from the park, and then I took creative photos while the participants were working on their body maps on a wooden table under the trees. During the workshop, I observed how everyone was reacting, their ideas, their artistic skills, and also their behavior. So I was able to complete a profile or the profile of each participant. At this point, I also helped with some technical matters and suggested possible techniques. The day ended with a picnic and an installation of the body maps hanging on a rope among two tree trunks. The figures appeared as they were flying in the forest. Everyone was very pleased and proud of their outcome, and we were excited to share the concept of each artwork. The final day was back at the office. A larger map of the area that we visited was printed on paper, and the task was to create a final map reflecting the Sarajevo process at Nicosia. The more confident members of the team got the idea immediately, but I noticed that some of the participants were hesitating. I felt that I could help. So I basically took the lead of the group and acted as an art director. I explained that the purpose was to create a group artwork that will reflect our experience of the previous days passed into nature. This meant that we could paint, we could sketch, decorate, stick, write, and use any other technique that will help us to create a collage of memories. Because art is not only visual, but can be something that we can feel, that we can touch, listen, read, or even taste. Considering the profile that I created for each participant in the previous days, I approached each one of them and suggested specific techniques and role. For example, I noticed that someone had better drawing skills, so I suggested that he could draw from observation. One was better in writing, so was responsible for the quotes on the map. A third person was skilled with paints, so worked with the colored parts of the map, and others showed decorative skills, so they were responsible for the collages. I was also participating in the creative process, as the best way to explain art is to demonstrate art. At the end, we all had a great journey and had achieved to create a map full of new memories in nature. We also had time to evaluate our process and our outcome, to suggest new ideas and reconsider some details. But we all agreed that we look forward to do the Sarajevo process again. Thank you very much.
That's really great, and I think that Eleana's presentation really does complement what you have said, Eleni, as well, in terms of the experience for you, and it's great to know that we'll be coming back to Nicosia to do it all again in the fall. Now I'm going to move over to A Coruña, who have just recently completed the first part of the Sarajevo process, which is the memory work exercise. So I will pass things over to Antonio and Maria and Yolanda and Iria. So.
Okay, let me show. Here we go. Yeah. Okay, so if Kakari is working with urban gardens or in the urban gardening.
Antonio, your screen actually, it was sharing and then it wasn't. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah.
Again.
Oh. Yeah, it's sharing now.
Okay. So as I was saying, working with urban gardens, so this is why we thought this was a great opportunity to run the Sarajevo process, not just with the Connect to Nature team. And we managed to put together people coming from the different urban gardens, and also a teacher who runs a school garden. And we had people from different cultural backgrounds and ages. As opposed to Nicosia, we just ran the first part work. So every participant brought a picture from their childhood, reflected on the memories they brought back. Participants knew each other, but not all of them. So we started with a short ice-breaking exercise. The participants compared their pictures, the pictures they brought, and their memories, and spontaneously started to cluster the pictures that were similar to each other. After this, we moved to the outside, to one of the urban gardens, and the gardener showed us around, and they talked about the benefits of having a garden and being in contact with nature. Then we ran a mindfulness exercise to connect memories, nature, and to get in the mood for writing. We went back inside to the building, and we ran the actual writing exercise, the memory exercise, and for that we had the two outstanding artists with us. One of them is Joanna, who is a writer and a poet, and she facilitated the writing exercise, and she is text translating individual memories that the participant collected output. Who is an illustrator, and she has been translating the texts and the experiences of pages. All of the texts written by the participants were very moving too. They were really emotional. And it was interesting to find some common topics, like, for example, a sense of nostalgia for the old times, as most people remember their childhood as a time of happiness and joy, even if for some of them there were hardships. Another concept was the concept of change, and most people expressed that when they were children, they had more contact with nature, there was more nature around, nature was more. But also, interestingly, many of them said that today having an urban garden was a way for them to connect with nature and with those happy memories. And this kind of proves to us that urban gardens are really able to provide benefits also.
Share with you some fragments of the quite complete and interesting text we have. But
Maria, you're very, very low, your microphone. You might need to come a little bit closer.
sorry.
No.
Can you
Oh,
hear me now?
it's still very, very quiet.
Hi. I try again. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but it's really, really low.
Yeah, I don't know how to.
Hi, Maria. If you're using an external microphone, you might try disconnect it. Just use your device microphone and just refresh your browser and come back in. Dimitri should let you back on stage, and hopefully that will fix it.
Okay. Yeah, maybe we'll do that. And while we wait for Maria to come back, we could have a look at. There's a question that's come in from the session. Hold on, I've got to bring it up here. So I think this is a question for myself and for you, Paulina, and it's around, she found it interesting how text becomes the dominant language of research always, and she's asking, is this something we need to question regarding values and a kind of academic colonialism? I think, I don't know, Pauline, do you have any thoughts on this?
I think absolutely that's a great question, and that's definitely something that we're trying to address here, especially with what Eleni mentioned about language as well. So text, and especially text in certain languages, is a very kind of dominant way of doing research. So I think one of the ways that we've tried to work with that is to bring in the arts and bring in other ways of expressing and of collecting data and of recording data, and then also yeah, I think just to think about the different ways that certain languages are used, and the different ways that text can be part of research. Yeah.
Yeah, and what I would add to that as well in terms of text, I think, we understand that we do still have to, do the traditional writing of the research papers, but, where we're coming from with the role of text is that it also has a visual quality to it as well. I think we all, we're researchers, but some of us are also have practicing artistic practices as well. So we would also look at text as a way of kind of breaking that kind of traditional perception of what it is and how it can be used, as a visual component in terms of the its poetic quality, its capacity to kind of exist in a space and be a visual element that can accompany some of the other artistic outputs as well. So yeah. Oh, here comes Maria again. Hopefully, there we go. Oh, and I can hear her. Most definitely now. So thank you so much for that question. And Maria, oh, I think she's just got to plug in her, oh, there we go. I think we're good to go. Maria, can you hear us? Oh, no, Maria's gone again. Okay, I mean, I don't know, Antonio, do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, okay. She'll come back in. Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah, and I think, and I think also this is quite nice. Oh, no, go ahead.
Yeah. Some fragments of the text wrote during the memory work exercise. We have 12 complete, very interesting, but text showing some parts of 4 of the text that we translated into. So with contrast text, this is the oldest picture I have, all dressed after the occasion and waiting for the photographer who probably pictures. With its incipient warmth and the scent of the white roses, harvest, the corn husking in the autumn, or even the chilblains of the winter, all of it comes to love and tenderness. Years passed, and I found myself alone in the village with my grandmother and her sister. My mom, my brothers and sisters moved to the city looking for a job. Eventually, lots of changes and lots of sickness we had to bear with. We had to accept what life brought to us, a different lifestyle, far from the trees, far from the birds, the fields, and the animals. But the gardens brought me birds, people. The next text was written by Roxana, and it goes like this. Not far from Montevideo, where I'm from, had a house where my family lived, also with neighbors and friends. I was in contact with nature, the surroundings, the fruit trees, and the garden. The tree was this pomegranate in the picture. I love fruit with just flavors made for peace and happiness. I love the sound of birds, the hummingbirds with its many colors that came to this. I love being in contact with nature, and every day I feel a growing need to that where I'm happy. I have an urban garden now, and I enjoy every day able to grow my own. Those happy moments while feeding from those delicacies that Mother Nature brings. Means life, peace and beauty. It amazes me with its colors, with its scents, and all it hosts. Better of it. And the next memory text is written by Kakari. brings me memories from the small village in the Pontevedra. We worked asked to fill a granary with corn to feed the animals, but also the bread we made. Work, but we were happy living in nature, breathing. Gardens are so important to me, and I have all the time. I'm grateful that I can live the years I have remembering those times. The last text written by Hannah. It's in the north of it. Soon, like millions of others, our house was the last one of the street. From a window, we could see the first wheat crops. They had not been yet. The neighborhood had no history. Built too fast, next to a network of empty streets. The way the fall crops a longer crop, and from there we enter into nature. I loved on Sunday afternoons. We until we clear and calm in the summer, wild and calm for the seasons. Metals, a tree from nature. We didn't have to. No matter how many it took, they always regrow. My group to cook green Italian soups, cheese, and then she would wash her heads with infused water. Now I have, and of course, and where some of the participants wrote, I think, they really show all of the emotion this exercise brought back, and we have the artist and media with us some of the drafts of the pictures they're working on and on the exercise. So, yes.
Thank you, Antonio. Well, I'm Iria, the illustrator and visual artist from A Coruña, and I'm very glad to be part of this project as I'm very conscious with nature, and it's the main theme of my personal work and artwork and my lifestyle. So, well, you're going to see some sketches. I'm working now on the final images. But during the first meeting in A Coruña with my partners and with the participants, I took some interesting notes to develop some images. I have to say, the same as Antonio, that it was very emotional meeting because people were speaking in very personal ways with their relation with nature. And I have a lot of material to translate into 3 conceptual images. And to sum up, the ideas I took were more or less some of them that Antonio already said. The first one is the ideal vision of nature in childhood as good memories of shared moments with family, friends, and the value of the handmade work and the relationship with hard work and harvest in the country, but in a festive and happy way. The next point in common was the contrast with the urban, the end of rural life and the start of a new start in the city. For most of the people was a difficult adaptation and a big contrast. And the other idea I was working on was the return to a remembered place in the adulthood to find a complete new sensation, not positive in all cases. For instance, the disappearance of the place of remember or the changes of the objects of the memory. And with these ideas, I found a poetically symbol, which was the fruit. And the fruit as a memory mover because its flavor, its color, its shape, smell, the tree where it comes from, and a way to understand nature and return to places in the memory. Without knowing that, Yolanda get to the same symbol, and it was very beautiful. But she took she's going to speak about it. And now I'm going to comment a little bit the images. I visualized 3 images, like 3 phases of the memory. This one, the first, is the childhood, represented by a giant vineyard as a playground. You can see like the children playing in a vineyard. The next image, please, Antonio. This image represents more or less the maturity, how memories come to us by an object, by a color, by a flavor, and how they are part of us. This is like some pieces of the images, the photos the people had in harvesting in common and connecting with nature by work. And the next image, please. And this is the return to a place or a moment when we realize that things change or disappear in reality, but they are still alive in our memories. I have 2 sentences that inspired me in this meeting that were, I don't know if this translation is very accurate, but more or less the sentence says, things with time aren't forget, they are remembered. And it was a sentence said by Dina, a 66-year-old woman from Portugal, talking about esfolhada, which is the process of taking off corn leaves in a community work. And the other phrase, the other sentence, is always there, always offering, that was said by Dimitra, talking about an orange tree. And I found them very meaningful to inspire my work. So that's it.
My turn now. This is Yolanda. I'm a writer and also very happy to be part of this experience. During the writing workshop, I was trying to bring out all those memories, also with the pictures that the participants brought to the session. But just before writing, I tried to put over the table some questions that could help somehow to bring those memories out, like the size of the spaces, the rooms in nature, what nature of course means to us, if those memories were connected with some season, with some weather, with some historical moment or phenomenon or something like that. If the memories were always connected with work or also with leisure and, well, many other kind of questions. They were very concentrated, they were writing. We found out how evocative nature is, in fact. As soon as the participants step in all their urban gardens, the memories just pop out. And those memories are not only just memories, but also, of course, emotional memories, feelings. They bring mostly connected with childhood, of course, that lost paradise of childhood, and always very linked to the idea of union, gathering, also peace, of course, protection, maybe because they were, of course, children, but this kind of protection. Even the tasks and works connected with nature are not perceived as something hard, but more with that reunion, with that joy, with that peace. And so it was amazing how that can connect them, and how having an urban garden can bring all those memories from childhood immediately to them. So it's something always connected with the idea of family, of community, more than family, even community, peaceful and joy. As my colleague said before, I can confirm again that the exercise was really moving. Even some of the texts that were read out loud made us come to tears. It happened to be very to include different generations. That was very rich and very enriching, and also it happened to be very cosmopolitan, because with those, I think Antonio said 12 participants. I can't remember the exact number of participants, but it included people from 3 continents. So very different memories from and experiences, of course, in Portugal, in Uruguay, in Italy, or in Senegal, that enriched our session, but also put over the table the fact that many of these memories have a lot in common. In my case, I'm just finishing the text that I will present. Of course, linking all these experiences and all these texts themselves. I will use the element, the symbol of not only the fruit, because there were many coincidences with Iria, but the bunches of fruits, because it has all the meanings that the Iria was mentioning concerning the fruit, but also the gathering and the sense of union that was so present in all the testimonies. So also my favorite sentences were that the Iria mentioned, especially the one that says, with time it doesn't make us forget, but to remember. And in fact, that will be the title of the text. So it was a very rewarding experience, and it will bring beautiful fruits for sure. Thank you.
That's really beautiful, Yolanda and Iria. It's wonderful to hear you both kind of share your experiences of working with us on the process. And I have to say, I don't speak Spanish, but I joined the session and I was there from in my little computer, and I was watching the whole thing unfold, and you could feel the emotion coming through the screen, and just I felt connected, even though I couldn't understand from a language perspective, but I fully felt like I was connected. So really wonderful. Maria, I take a point that your microphone wasn't helpful for you there, but if you had any thoughts or any comments to make on the experience as well, or if you're just happy with what Antonio and Yolanda and Iria have said. Yeah, no, it was really quite moving. I think for me too, what's interesting is the way in which both Eleni and Antonio and Yolanda and Iria shared their experiences. I think you can see that it's a very deep and meaningful experience, and it's not something that we kind of do lightly or do in a one-off manner. Like, we are going to go back to both Nicosia and A Coruña and build on what we've done. I'm just taking a note here that we have a little bit of time for a couple of questions, and then I do need to steal 2 minutes at the end of the session before we close. But one of the questions, well, maybe, I don't know, will we go back to Tassie's questions and ask Yolanda for her thoughts on the role of text in something like this? So she was, did you have anything to add there, Yolanda?
It will take some time, because it's a complex situation.
Mm-hmm.
Regarding, I found very interesting this concept of academic colonialism, but also we have a double conflict here. We have a deep diglossia, the different social status of the 2 languages that are official here, as you know, Spanish and Galician. So through the texts that were presented or that were written during the session, we could register somehow how some people were Galician speaking at home, but then the language of acculturation was Spanish. They couldn't study properly Galician as Iria or Antonio could do. So when they wrote in Spanish, but their mother tongue was Galician. Can you follow me?
Mm-hmm.
And then some other people was her acculturation process, and their education was in Galician, so they wrote in Galician. Of course, some other were foreigners, so they used Spanish. And well, different approaches with different subtle meanings of this complex system of languages, education, and social status of languages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great, thank you. There's a question here about the participant selection in Nicosia and in A Coruña. Eleni, Antonio, Maria, do you want to speak to that a little bit?
So in our case, we wanted to use this process first to the close team of our, close team of ANEL, the company I work for, which is responsible for the project. So we wanted first to examine the relationship we could find from the people who actually work on these projects, and then go out and work with the municipal officers and other group of people who we would like to see what we can earn from applying this process too. So first we wanted to do this to our close team of at the office, and then when we understand what we were experiencing, what we want to take out of this process, to apply this to other groups.
And in our case, because our example is about urban gardening, urban gardens, compared to other kind of nature-based solutions, have a number of people involved. So we already were in contact with a group of gardeners, and with the president of the Gardeners Association, and with the teachers who do have an urban garden schools. So it was very natural to invite them to participate in the process, and we told them that we were interested in having a nice mix of cultural backgrounds and ages. So it was very natural. They came, and then we found out the day of the exercise that we did have that mix that we were aiming for. So it was really, a great surprise for us, but it naturally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, perfect. It was wonderful to see the mix in A Coruña as well. And when we started this process, our first practice was in Sarajevo, and we had a small group of all women, and we had and also those of us on the research team are all women as well. So we were quite concerned that maybe the gender would be an issue when we kind of invited men in. But in Nicosia, Eleni's kind of spoken about some of the challenges, but that in the end, over the 3 days, everybody kind of engaged very meaningfully. So it's nice now to know that this is something that can work with a diverse group of individuals as well. I just want to very quickly share my screen, and I will do this hopefully very efficiently. So obviously, we've shared, I hope everybody can see my screen here. Can everybody see my screen?
That's fine.
Okay, sorry. I made a master slides in case we couldn't all share the screen. So I just wanted to take a moment to just say that through all of the work that we've done with the Sarajevo process, not only has it been an enriching experience for us in terms of the Connecting Nature project, but it has allowed us to start to think about this process, and we've actually moved it out of just Connecting Nature, and we're spinning out into a new enterprise. It's called Empath, and it's about preparing the ground for people-centered co-production engagement to support sustainable community development. So very briefly, community communities, places, and organizations are composed of the intangible. And here we're talking about stories, memories, values, and cultures. And you heard a lot about that today through the stories from Nicosia and A Coruña, and also the tangible: people, nature, objects, buildings, and towns. And we must understand these and work with these elements to co-create transformative transformative means and patterns towards inclusion, sustainability, and resilience. So Empath is going to work with communities and stakeholders to co-create meaningful connections through emotional mapping. And this is about understanding and revealing the emotional, cognitive, and physical landscape, exploring the past, present, and future of places, spaces, and people. It's about fostering empathetic connections, making meaning, relationships, and connections across time and space. Focusing on embodied reflections and using embodied experiences and drawing on those senses to make sense of the world and reconnect with the environment and each other. And embedding the shared learning and knowledge so that we can, here we're talking about co-creating or revealing collective cognition. So here's about understanding an issue, risks, if we're thinking about climate change, what are those risks? And then thinking about solutions towards a vision and action to kind of combat those. And then also empowering communities. And it's about engaging with them to co-create these pathways and to support innovative initiatives. Who we are: there's myself, Dimitri Xaidous, and our colleague, Dr. Paula Vandergert, Tom Gray, who's an architect, and Paulina Giorgio, who you've met today. Just want to point out there's an orange in my photo, and that's from Santander, actually. So I'm very attached to my orange trees and the power of symbols and fruits. Where you can find us: we've got a website, we've got a Twitter, and we've got an Instagram. And as always, don't be shy, please come and say hello. We're happy to hear any thoughts or questions you have about today's sessions, or if there's anything in here that today that you found inspiring, and I hope that you'll be in touch with us. And if there's anything we can help with in terms of any projects that you're thinking about, that we're very happy to work with you on that. So I just want to finish on this quote by Richard Serra, who's a sculptor. And what he says is, "What interests me is the opportunity for all of us to become something different from what we are by constructing spaces that contribute something to experience of who we are." I think that's really meaningful, and that's what we strive to do with the work in Empath. But I would also say that we're also looking to contribute to spaces that reflect something of our experiences as well. So not just looking at ourselves in the present moment, but thinking of ourselves throughout the entirety of our lives, and how the lived experience can contribute to making better, more healthful, more meaningful spaces for us and improving our quality of life. So that's it for me. I'm going to stop sharing.
Dimitri, one of your slides were a bit stuck, so maybe you want to share the slide with the contact information at least, so people might want to get in touch.
Okay, thanks for that. Hopefully this works. Let me just do that very quickly here. Share screen. Okay, share. So can you see the slide with the contact info? Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Do you want to try and enlarge that?
Is that better? So you can email us at hello@empathway.org, and then that's our website and our Twitter and our Instagram. So there we are. I know we've gone a bit over, but I just want to take this moment to thank everyone for joining us today. I want to give an extra special thank you to Eleni, Antonio, Yolanda, Iria, and Maria. I mean, I'm sitting here, I hearing your stories again, even though we've kind of processed that we've done the experience. It's still very moving, and it's really powerful, and it's just really wonderful to hear everybody's enthusiasm and emotion when you're also sharing your stories with us, and that's quite meaningful for us. I think in terms of next steps, obviously we're going to continue to work with our Connecting Nature Cities. So we'll be working with Nicosia and with A Coruña, and we hope to also Sarajevo, who was the first city that kind of kickstarted this for us. And as well, we're fingers crossed we'll be able to see to work with Pablos Melas as well. And I see we've got our colleagues from Pablos Melas joining us here today. So I just want to say thank you to everyone. I hope you enjoy the rest of the summit. I think there's about a couple of hours left, and also have just great days. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.